Oh, fan service. It's a touchy subject, but it could technically mean anything plopped in a piece of media to please the fans. Like, say, Isaac and Miria from Bakano turning up in Durarara. But I think we're all in agreement about what the term is most strongly associated with. Whether you're the fan this trope is serving, or you cringe a little every time it happens, you might think to yourself, how? Why is this a thing? Today we're exploring one of anime's most controversial hallmarks. Fan service. To figure out why boobs got so inflated and why shower scenes so common, let's dive into some fan service history. Of course, throwing in dirty jokes has been an entertainment trick since the dawn of time. Everyone from the ancient Greeks to Shakespeare to American sports teams have done it. But to really understand how all this factors into anime, we have to delve into the history of nudity and eroticism in Japan. It's that kind of episode, guys. Because you can actually blame a lot of this on America. You see, Japan was in self-enforced isolation until 1853, when the US Navy sailed into Tokyo Harbor and forced Japan to begin trading with the US. Of course, that opened the floodgates for a bunch of European countries and missionaries to force themselves in as well. Before the West got there, the Japanese attached zero stigma to nudity and eroticism. In fact, women were commonly topless. Men wore nothing but loincloths in the summer, and people of all genders bathed together. Unlike today, as you know if you've been to an onsen. We haven't. We live in New York. What's more, erotic hand scrolls called shunga were crazy popular for everyone, from farmers to the shogunate. Because nudity was so normalized, it wasn't considered erotic. Fancy clothes were. Although these old scrolls are currently considered taboo to the point where many aren't even in museums, shunga were far from stigmatized in the 16th and 17th centuries. They were popular wedding gifts and kept around the house as good luck against fires. There's even documentation of horrified Western missionaries being shown shunga as it's passed around at dinner parties. I would love to go to one of those. Globalization brought Japan's differences into the limelight, and a political revolution triggered a new era that enforced further westernization. The new emperor banned public nudity, public baths, and shunga, explicitly because they were inappropriate according to Western standards. The government then came and confiscated everyone's shunga. Suddenly, Japanese sexuality became incredibly repressed, and the government stole your stash. Can you imagine that? Like, just government officials walking into your room being like, what's under your bed, sir? World War II brought even more Americans into Japan, causing a sharp rise in the popularity of prostitution. Western clothing, which was previously the mark of the wealthy and prostitutes, started to become unilaterally common, which meant underwear, which meant women not used to Western clothes or sitting with their knees touching, and so the panty fetish was born. Also, pornography was okay again. Hooray! Why am I so excited? Which leads us to 1969 and to anime. Osamu Tezuka, the creator of Astro Boy, wants to make up for a few poorly performing films by tapping the completely untapped adult animation market. The result was Animerama trilogy, 1001 Nights, Cleopatra, and The Belladonna of Sadness. 3 highly sexually explicit films, all earning a persistent but apparently false rumor that they're X-rated. Working on the trilogy clearly influenced Tezuka, and you can tell with his 1971 children's series, Marvelous Melmo. Hold on. Okay, let me explain. It's about a 9-year-old girl who has candies that can turn her into an adult or an infant. Melmo is often credited with supplying anime with its first ever panty shot, or panshira. Or maybe we should say the first sexual panshira. When Melmo turns into an adult, her 9-year-old clothes get rather tight. And of course, there's some nudity. It's the first sexy shower scene in a kid's show that we could find, so there you go, anime. You just earned the worst superlative of all time. The uber-influential Lupin III also premiered in 1971. The show featured the seductive femme fatale Fujiko Mine. There's some crack shirt tickle torturing in the very first episode. As a seinen marketed for teenagers, Lupin's sexual stuff was often heavily implied. At least it wasn't for the kids like Melmo. But the birth of true modern fan service was the first time it was heavily featured in an action show for preteen boys. Shonen. And that honor goes to Cutie Honey, as you can totally tell by the title. It's the story of an android girl who can transform into a crime fighter. The manga and the anime versions both premiered within just a couple of weeks of each other in October 1973. The creator and mangaka Go Nagai launched Cutie Honey mere months after finishing Devilman, which featured some boobs of its own. Although having your heroine in a costume as revealing as Honey's was new. In the manga, Honey's transformations and the cover of the first volume are revealing. But that's nothing compared to the anime. See, at first Cutie Honey was a magical girl anime meant for shoujo, but due to some TV scheduling hoopla, Cutie Honey ended up getting slated for the time slot reserved for shonen. So TV executives started asking, how do we make this show about a lady appeal to preteen boys? The answer, of course, was nudity. Her clothes are legit torn off during her transformation, and the camera makes sure to do a nice 360 so we can see her fully exposed bod. Plus, the opening has the male protagonist grab her boobs to hold on while she drives a motorcycle. You know, the safest and most secure way to hang on for your life as you zoom at high speeds on a deathmobile without a seatbelt. It's important, guys. Safety. There's totally a bathtub scene in the intro too, which probably catapulted that whole subtrope into people's minds. Let's fast forward through the 70s and the now steadily increasing number of shower scenes. In 1981, we get the first series whose entire plot existed to spawn fan service. Miss Machiko was famous and popular for its sexual humor. Here's the plot of the series as described by my anime list. Machiko Mai is the newest teacher at Asama Elementary. Whether it's luring her in and spraying up her skirt with a hose, or going leaps and bounds to grab her breast, there's nothing that Machiko's first-year students won't try to do. Machiko is always a good sport and tries her best to help out her students, at any cost to her dignity. So cool there's an entire series about sexually humiliating a career woman. And thus, the dark side of fan service was born. Shortly thereafter, the advent of OVAs, original video animations, aka things that go straight to video, allowed animators to explore things that they couldn't explore on TV. So we quickly got the hentai. With 1984's Lolita Anime, followed shortly by the very suggestively named Cream Lemon. As you might imagine, there's not really much more we can say about those here. Meanwhile, Hideaki Anno was preparing to gift us many things. Evangelion and key sequences in Ghibli films. But you know how we talked earlier about how anime love to show boobs that defy the laws of gravity? There's a term for that, Gainaxing, or the Gainax bounce, after Anno's studio. Although many cite Anno's directorial debut, the 1988 OVA Gunbusters, as the first instance of the Gainax bounce, it was actually in a pre-Gainax promotional video for Daicon 4. As if putting the main character in a Playboy bunny costume wasn't already sexualized enough, you also see some Gainax bouncing when she jumps. The bounce was initially used to create a more lifelike effect when a woman is running, jumping, or the like, which actually checks out. As a woman, I can tell you that sports bras exist for a reason. But as the 90s settled in, the trope started to get a little more reality-defying, sometimes at the hand of Gainax themselves, like in the incredibly overt sexual happenings in Otaku no Video. From here on, the trend just snowballs. Panty shots, Gainaxing, brief and not so brief nudity, shower scenes, and skimpy costumes all appear with more and more frequency in more and more shows. It gets to the point where fan service starts popping up casually in unexpected places. Well, maybe not so casually. Take the scene from the third episode of the original 1986 Dragon Ball, where Master Roshi will only hand over his Dragon Ball if Bulma shows him her underwear. She does, except she's not wearing underwear at all, and we end up seeing her tush. Of course, Roshi, Turtle, and Oolong see more than that. That's not to say all awkward fan service plot points are that cringy. Take Neon Genesis Evangelion, Gainax's magnum opus from 1995. Evangelion coyly teases the audience in an episode preview that there will be more fan service. The series is rife with sexual tension and awkward moments involving Shinji and boobs, but it's done so freaking well and so vividly highlights everyone's characters and insecurities, it doesn't feel like fan service if you're not looking for it. Seriously, the whole thermal expansion boob awkwardness is so perfectly teenagery. Now, we've been talking a lot about fan service, but what about services for fans? Like Loot Anime. It's a subscription box that delivers sweet anime merch each month for just $30. Use the code GetintheRobot to get 15% off and click the link in the description for more info. So if you want to be a walking JoJo reference, check it out. Cat ears not included. And now let's tackle the most popular anime of all time if you're Japanese. An interesting benchmark in fan service. One Piece. It premiered in 1998, if you can believe it, and will probably continue long after the apocalypse has claimed us all. One Piece has this amazing ability to subsume everything that's fantastic and problematic about anime and spit it out into a chaotic, bizarre, magical rainbow with pirates. As such, it's bizarrely introduced more fan service over time. Take Nami. When the series started, she favored t-shirts and her chest was refreshingly modest. During the series time skip, she acquired huge boobs that she now regularly shows off in a bikini. Is that why it's called One Piece? Because that's not a One Piece. But One Piece also has an acute knowledge of exactly where the line is and how far over it they are. You regularly get scenes poking fun of the series' gratuitous fan service, or instances where a woman will go up to some guards and say, "Wow, look at my breasts," and proceed to beat the crap out of the guards while they ogle. One Piece isn't the only show to add fan service after it has a following. Like, why does it look like Mayuri goes up a few cup sizes between Steins Gate and Steins Gate Zero? Why does Celti suddenly have to unzip her leather suit past her chest to store a picture in Durarara X2? Why is fan service something people feel has to be present even when a show already has fans? Because honestly, right now, the list of series with little to no fan service is dramatically shorter than the list of series with it. Off the top of my head, Full Metal Alchemist, Attack on Titan, Made in Abyss, Steins Gate Season 1, Bakano, Tatami Galaxy, and that's it. That's all I can think of. Maybe Hamtaro back in the day. There's also series like Kill la Kill, which is understandably a toughie. It's about Ryuko, a teenage girl who must avenge her father in a very revealing suit of armor that just barely covers her breasts. But Ryuko is a total badass, and her character is so strong and engaging that she manages to come across as empowered, rather than, helplessly objectified. And when compared to the series' splinter group, Nudist Beach, who go without any clothes as a declaration of their strength, Kill la Kill starts to feel way more in on the fan service joke than it might look at first glance. Of course, objectification and commodification are still inevitable. Take a stroll in an anime store sometime and notice all the busty lady figurines. Fan service is also deeply tied to the rise of moe, the cultural subset revolving around strong feelings of affection towards characters. Female characters. Typically. We've gotten to the point where there's an entire subgenre of anime for a general audience that contains sexual content throughout. Ecchi. Keijo, a 2016 sports anime where women fight each other using only their boobs and butts, is considered an ecchi and a shonen. Remember, shonen is for preteen boys. But also, it's so absurd it might just be okay? And we can't forget to mention all of the fan service anime that falls into the boys love or yaoi category. We probably could and should make a whole other video about it. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Good. But shows like Yuri on Ice and Ouran High School Host Club are just a gateway for fans who find themselves drawn in by the washboard abs and gravity-defying hair. What's the other side of that gateway? Number 6, Junjo Romantica, Target in the Finder, Love Stage, oh god, Love Stage, and Super Lover. Fan service is the trope that launched 1,000 subgenres, and though some of them make me cringe a little, I'm a super fan of others. And that perfectly encapsulates why fan service is a thing. Someone, somewhere, wants the same vanity shots and neck-breaking camera angles as the people who make these shows, and they will show up to stan. Here's the real question. Why does this happen all the time in anime, but not in American cartoons made for similar demographics? It's not an easy answer. For one, since 1996, America has had TV parental guidelines step in and steer anything too sexually explicit towards an older audience. But keep in mind that until the late 1800s, Japan was A-okay with dirty material until the government said otherwise. It's also a country now where sexlessness is somewhat common. Anime and manga's role in that sexlessness is the topic of a big chicken or the egg debate. But you're hard-pressed to find any anti-fan service scholars in Japan. Yet for American fans, particularly feminist and female-identifying anime fans, how to approach and deal with fan service is a constant dilemma. Is there a hard line, or do you judge it on a case-by-case basis? It's a deeply personal question, and hopefully you now feel a little more equipped to answer it for yourself. So why fan service? It's a complex blend of appealing to a certain audience and a certain culture that is in certain ways less prudish than the West, and that special sauce, merch and marketing. Whether you'd rather love it or leave it, fan service has struck a chord with its intended audience, the fans. Yes, even me. I'm Cristal Marie, and thanks for watching GetintheRobot, your anime explainer.